D. Mace Vin Ginadonic 1025 1063 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. David Janes along for the ride as well. Willie, I'm sure you're on cloud nine. Your Mets re-signed Pete Alonso. I'm surprised you didn't wear. I'm surprised you didn't wear your Mets hat today.
Well, I had the dress code because the team is going to Chicago today. Otherwise, I would have absolutely gone like full orange and blue. Yeah, I was pretty pumped. Now I look at the lineup for the Mets and I'm excited. Now I am a little bit wary. The Mets overachieved last year. We know how that can go. Championships are not won on paper. I've seen some spectacular crashes by my team, so it's always cautious optimism. But that was big to get the polar bear back. I don't know anything about the Grimace for 2025.
That's all I care about.
And there's still we don't know about Jose Iglesias, who had the OMG, which was the other big mantra. He put out a song that became like a huge #1 Latin hit. And it became like the fight song.
Was it called OMG?
It's called OMG. Yeah. It's a Spanish song that he actually performed on the field.
He did?
In front of the fans. Yeah. It just became a big thing. That between that and the Grimace, it just took over the vibe of the whole team. I don't know if they can recreate that, but they have not brought him back for this year. He had a tremendous season, this guy who was washed up seemingly out of the major leagues for like 2 years. And had a great resurgent season and had this song, and they haven't brought him back. It's kind of cold-blooded. So
why not, man? Why not bring? Then he brought some sense of
he was awesome.
fortune, didn't he?
He was awesome. He's just at a stage of his career. It's like, can he do that again? I don't know if he can do that again.
There was something that I heard yesterday, and I sent it to you guys, and I don't know if David got it queued up or not, but we got to hear it sometime today before the show is over, because it might have been the realest, the funniest, and the sort of weirdest press conference that I have ever seen.
It can't be real, right?
It is real.
It's real?
It's real. It is definitely real. That is him. That is Rob Ryan.
It looks like him.
It looks like him, unless they've done voiceovers. But no, that was... and we've seen a lot of just like crazy interviews. I mean, you can go to the late Mike Leach, his interviews. I mean, you can go to coaches, the Temple coach, old coach.
John Chaney.
Yeah, John Chaney.
Ooh, yeah.
He would come in and it would just be
threatening
fire.
to kill John Calipari.
Yes, fire and brimstone.
He came out of the back of the room. It was
Denny Smith, Denny Green. We've seen them all.
You want to crown him?
Playoffs.
Jim Mora.
Yeah. We've seen some crazy ones. Now, this may have been the craziest. I saw it and I'm like, this can't be real. And then as I started to check more and more, it was like, this is real.
Because I have seen some really dumb AI things where people try to shock you and they think they're funny. They make the coach say, and it's obviously doctored up.
The headline from Awful Announcing: Rob Ryan gave a truly insane USC introductory press conference.
So this is real.
This is real, man. And if you know anything about the Ryan brothers, I mean, like their dad, they're characters.
Yes.
Good people, but characters, even though I got my little riff with Rex. But good people. But I want y'all to hear this. This will make y'all's day. Like, if you're having a bad day, pull over and listen to this, because it's going to make you laugh. It's going to make your day.
Watch where we finish this year. This guy is special. He's special. He knows how to get it done. He's a great communicator, great teacher. He's fun to be around. He makes everybody better, including the coaches. And, we'll see. I'm looking forward for the, spring ball or whatever. I can't wait. We're going to go against the best. Oh, good. Bring it on. Let's see. I can't wait to see that little JUCO kid from Hutch. Bam! We're going to get after his little butt. But anyway, it'll be great. We're excited. You know, and I saw the Mayava guy. I coached his uncle. I hated that kid when I first saw him. A USC kid, a little captain. Remember, he could walk under this table right here. Little guy. And we draft this little one. Like, oh, man. This guy, I was all over this kid during the OTAs. Like, man, this guy, man, you got to run cover guy. Anyway, so then I'm like, hey, guys, Sweet Live is going on vacation with the family, going out to Hawaii, going to Maui. I've never been to Maui. I run things in Oahu, but I'm like, I'm going to go to Maui. He's like, hey, Rob, you get in any kind of trouble now, you just tell him you know Kalooks. I'm like, man, yeah.
What is he talking about?
I don't know.
Out there.
Is he talking about players that are going to be
No,
on his team?
listen.
Got me and the wife there. Oh, we're going to have a romantic evening. Go out there. No rent a car.
It sounds like he's walking away from the
What do you mean
podium.
you never called for the rent a car? I told you she's Greek. I'm like, yeah, they must have lost it.
Listen.
So, of course, I forgot to call. Now they're out of cars. I'm in Maui. I got no car. So what do? I know Kalooks. I got a car. Oh, you know Kalooks? Swear to God, hand to God, true story. I got a van. I'm like, yeah, Kalooks, my man. Anyway, I ended up loving the kid. He was, oh man, to see me as a rattlesnake. And there was a reason why that kid was captain with all those first round draft choices. I love that guy. Ended up looks to be the same.
Meandering around to get to the point.
By the
eventually.
way,
Yeah.
Rob Bryan has been hired as the assistant head coach
Yes.
for defense and the linebackers coach of the USC Trojans.
Exactly. And it was just it was funny to me because for one, he kind of veered off. And then I like what he said, look, JUCO kid, like, ugh. Is he talking about his own player? Like he want to take a jab at him?
Yeah.
So he's talking about his own player. But then he says, you know, I go and I want a romantic night. And he's fussing about that. And then he says, I go get the rent-a-car. The rent-a-car's not around. My wife's like, where's the rent-a-car? I'm like, they must have forgot. No, I didn't. I didn't order the car. So it was all of this stuff going on with Rob Ryan. It was just like, I wonder what the beginning of the press conference sound like. Because if this is what USC is going to get, man, I'm telling him, if I'm on defense, I'm running through a wall for this guy. I truly am, because he gets it, man. He gets it. He's one of those guys when the tension is at his highest and people are looking around. He's one that would say something like that and break the ice, and the team goes out there and do what they need to do to win. Gosh, man, that was probably the funniest interview I've seen in a good while.
We do have some important Grimace-related news on our text line, Willie, from Michael and Madison. McDonald's is bringing back the Shamrock Shake, which they do every year around this time. But apparently, for the first time in roughly 40 years, Grimace's Irish Green Shamrock Shake slinging uncle has returned to McDonald's. That's right. Uncle O'Grimacy is back, according to McDonald's.
There was an
So
Uncle
it needs to become a family affair. Grimace and Uncle O'Grimacy and the Mets. It needs to become a family affair. How can we get Uncle O'Grimacy in on this?
When did he come out?
In 1975 to promote the Shamrock Shake.
Oh, see,
And then I
never
believe
knew
people
that.
thought it
That's
was
when Uncle O'Grimacy came out, or that's when the Grimace came out?
No, Uncle O'Grimacy was introduced in 1975.
But when did have they always had him in there ever since 1975? Has he been in there? Has he been in
I
there
feel like
lately?
he's in there, but he's been kind of lost in the shuffle.
I'm
with
wondering
the
if
Hamburglar.
McDonald's at one point thought
Yeah.
it was
And,
culturally insensitive to have an Irish character, so maybe they just put him to the side for a while, and now they're bringing him back.
But I've
after
never
40 years.
seen him
Well, it's been 40 years
since he's been
since he's been out in the public eye.
Okay. I thought okay. Why bring him back out?
I honestly don't remember Uncle O'Grimacy.
Why not?
The Grimace has always been sort of
Yeah.
out there somewhere.
But Michael's point is that Uncle O'Grimacy can become the latest Mets fan in the Grimace family. You can have Grimace, and now Uncle O'Grimacy can be.
right? Just to have something new.
Yeah.
Uncle
Bring the
O'Grimacy
uncle out.
sounds like a Yankees fan.
Yeah.
Speaking of Yankees fans,
More Red Sox too. I would say like New Englandy, maybe a
That-
little more
that-
Irish.
That's probably
I
more
don't know.
fair.
Speaking of Yankees fans, yesterday we ended our show talking about Austin Capobianco, the Yankees fan who was thrown out of Game 4 of the World Series for interfering with Mookie Betts. He's been indefinitely banned from all Major League Baseball stadiums. But at the end of yesterday's show, we read a story about Capobianco in The Athletic, where he shared that, among other things, someone sent a box full of poop to his parents' house. And Derek was very
Yes.
disturbed by all of this. But I know that Derek spent some time last night looking for websites where you can send poop to people. So the people want to know, Derek, did you find it?
Yes, I did.
And
it was
did you send it to anybody?
No, I didn't send it to anybody
Yet.
yet. But there were several, which blows my mind that there were even several. Hell, that there were even one. But there were several companies that send feces to you,
But what kind?
like elephant
Can you
poop.
choose?
Yeah, you could choose.
They
Okay.
have
You had the
pictures.
choice.
They
You
have
had
pictures
pictures.
of the type.
I don't need to
Elephant
see the
poop.
picture.
I mean, all kinds of
And the
poop.
pictures
Dog
of the
poop.
animals, not of
Yeah,
the-
they get pictures of the
This
animals.
sounds
Imagine
like a
if
crappy
somebody-
Like
conversation.
animated,
Yes.
animated ones.
Imagine if somebody's just tuning in right now and they see Derek just listing the types of poop. Elephant poop,
I'm
dog poop,
They got llama.
llama poop.
Yup. They got what is this? This is goat. They got camel, cow. So they got all types of stuff.
Do they have Uncle O'Grimacy?
They could. They could. So there is a website. I'm not gonna even say the website. Just
No.
go out and find it.
But
It's
it says,
easy to find.
No free shouts.
But there's a fun picture on there. Just
Exactly.
in case you didn't know what the operation was like. It has an open cardboard box. It has send them blank, and it has a red arrow pointing at the box. And then the tagline is, they deserve it.
So there it is. So I found them. So I will keep that sort of in my queue. That website in my queue, just in case I have to
If you
Send
tick
that.
off Derek Mason, he knows what to do now.
exactly.
So
Absolutely.
They
So
have very clear directions on this. It says, "Who are we sending the bleep to?" Question
do
mark.
you put name,
And then they have then
address,
you fill out the form. You fill out a form online.
city, whatever. Hey, you can do it. You can do PayPal,
Yeah.
GoPay, anything.
This is just
credit card.
This is just mean.
Jeff is asking on the text line if I've been day drinking. I mean, coffee.
Yeah.
Do I sound particularly unhinged this morning? That was Rob Ryan. That was not me.
Yeah,
by
that
the
was
way.
Rob Ryan.
That was Rob Ryan. That
To
was
clarify,
not me.
that
Yeah,
wasn't
not
Adam
me.
Biggin.
He might have been day
He
drinking.
may
It's
have
possible.
been, yes.
Al said he sent goat poop to Tom Brady's house. I don't know if he actually did that. Is it goat greatest of all time poop or goat poop like the animal? I don't know.
So if you send goat poop, would it be his own poop?
That's gross.
Oh.
That's where I draw the line.
No, goat poop.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Goat greatest of all time, Tom
Yeah.
Brady. I get it.
Yeah.
That I draw the line there.
Why draw the line at your own poop, but not at an animal's poop
Oh
or
my God.
something else?
We got to get this show back
We
on
do.
the road.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Did you
I'm
guys
sorry.
watch Tennessee, Missouri last night?
Yes.
I know Adam was probably divided. He was watching his beloved Duke Blue Devils dismantle Syracuse at the old
Yeah, it wasn't
Carrier
even
Dome, which
close.
they don't call the Carrier Dome. I
Biggest
don't know.
crowd in college basketball this season.
It was a big one.
Yeah.
It was a pretty easy win for Duke.
No
Meanwhile,
sweat this time.
Tennessee took some hard punches in the first half from Missouri.
Mhm.
Missouri came out just on fire. And then Tennessee really played impressively in the second half. They looked like a number one seed in the second half. I really have watched them a few times this year and said to myself, is this really a one seed? Especially in comparison to last year's Tennessee
Mhm.
team, which I thought had more firepower. But that was a good win for them last night.
By the
because
way,
Missouri's very, very good.
speaking of last year's Tennessee team, Dalton Knecht got traded in the NBA. He was part of the
Yes, he did.
massive deal between the Hornets and the Lakers. Mark Williams, a former Duke player, going to Los Angeles. Dalton Knecht, in the midst of his rookie season with the Lakers, headed back out this way.
So
as
the
a
Lakers
member
have
of the
just changed their
Hornets.
whole team in 4 days or whatever it was.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes, they did.
I guess they have to. It stands to reason you have to shape your roster to envision what this is going to look like with Luka and LeBron on the same team. I would imagine that creates
because they had
issues. Like Connect is a perimeter player.
Yeah, Connect is more like
where Doncic is going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Connect is more like Doncic in the thought of, this is our shooter. This is a guy that can, come off picks, a guy that, can create his own shot, but more or less he's our shooter, our 3-point shooter. Well, he became expendable because they got Luka Doncic, who's only 25 years old. So he becomes this expendable. And where did he go again?
Where did
Connect?
He went to Charlotte. He was traded to
so
Charlotte.
hopefully he can get his career going in Charlotte and do some good things there.
But back to Tennessee, Willie. I mean, despite some struggles that the Volunteers might have had recently, they're still in line for a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. I would venture to guess there are probably going to be 3 SEC teams with a number 1
That's
seed.
what our buddy Joe Lenardi, who is everywhere.
Alabama, Auburn, and Tennessee.
He has them all as ones and 2 other teams as number 2s. It's really amazing.
He has Florida
strength at the top.
And he has Florida, and I just
Texas
see
A&M.
Florida. Okay, Texas A&M I see as a 3 seed in this
Well,
latest ranking.
Joe changes it every 15 minutes.
Yes.
He's got to be up to speed. Also, notable, I don't know how Kentucky fans feel about this, but Calipari's team, Arkansas, went to Texas last night and thumped Texas at Texas. Now, Texas made a late run to make it closer. But at one point, I think Arkansas was up 20, 21 points midway through the second half. All of a sudden, Arkansas has had the light go on. This is like everybody in the SEC has got to be going, come on, can we just have a couple of teams have the wheels fall off so we can get a couple wins here? It is such a rough league. But Arkansas is moving back into hey, we got to keep an eye on these guys for the bubble.
But I think it was a matter of time before Arkansas, because Cal's
got players.
He's going to get the players. It's just a matter of time. But I'm not sure, because of the way UT play at times. And I think they've been guilty of this before, where they get stagnant. A lot of times they got guilty of it last year because of Connect. They sat around and they watched Connect, do his thing or whatnot. And so a lot of times when they would get in those laws, it was because they depended on one guy. And it seems like they're still doing that at times, especially last night. There were times that the offense just stopped moving, or it was like so heavy one side that, because they kept using that, I don't know what you would call it, Willie, but that it was like a screen, that bottom of the corner 3-point screen. They kept using that over and over, and then they just got stagnant with it, and then Missouri started to make a run. Well, what was it, Missouri?
It was Missouri.
Missouri. Missouri started to make a run. And then once they got back to allowing the ball to slowly move throughout the offense, they started to get a lot better. So that's what I'm worried about with UT, is that because I guess it was the same thing yesterday when they had a knockdown shooter. But I'm scared that they're going to get in the playoff, meaning the tournament, they're going to get into one of those situations where they get stagnant and they end up losing a game. Not because they're not the best team, but because for whatever reason they get in these laws.
I think they're going to be really good defensively pretty much every night, which will give them a good chance. I do think that they could have a night in the tournament where they struggle to score against the right team, or they could have a cold day from the outside. They're not enough shooters that they can rely on. Like Missouri's got guys coming out of their ears who can really shoot it. And they're really long. Like Missouri is way better. Remember, Missouri was 0-18 in the league last year. And all of a sudden they're in the legit top 25 team now. This is the crazy days of college basketball.
I'm telling you, I can't wait for the SEC tournament here in a month. It's going to be excellent. 615-737-1025. Coming up next. The big game is upcoming. Again, I don't know when I'm allowed to say big game. I don't know when I'm allowed to say Super Bowl.
It's okay. Just say it.
It's a bit
the
now.
big game,
unless
Super Bowl.
Sponsoring something.
Now it's a bit.
Just when we're talking about it, let's just talk Super Bowl.
Okay. It's the Super Bowl.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Let's just go with it. Don't stress.
As A.J. Brown prepares for another Super Bowl, can we truly quantify how disastrous that trade was for the Tennessee Titans? We're going to attempt to do so coming up next. But before we do, Dunkin' fans, come experience the new age of Dunkin' at the grand opening of their newly remodeled Brentwood location at 4930 Thoroughbred Lane tomorrow morning. Dunkin' will be giving away 100 days of free coffee to the first 100 guests in line starting at 8 a.m. Plus, Robbie and Rexroad will be broadcasting live from 6 to 9, and we'll have Preds tickets to give away.
Okay, time to tell you about Loan Pronto. Remember, they're the leader in quickly converting home equity into cold hard cash for homeowners. You've got equity in your home. That's money that you have the ability to utilize. So if you have needs to pay off a credit card bill, start a home remodel, or have other loans to pay, like a car loan, Loan Pronto has several easy options to let you access that cash from your home. There's no paperwork, no cumbersome process, no junk fees, often no appraisal. And the average homeowner can do this, get thousands of dollars out, and still save on their monthly expenses. So get approved in as little as 1 day with no hard credit pull up front by calling Loan Pronto. The website's easy, loanpronto.com. The phone number, 615-499-5780. That's loanpronto.com, 615-499-5780. Get that money you need. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLS, consumeraccess.org.
This week's Nashville's best deal is Prince's Hot Chicken, the original and iconic chicken joint. Get half off a $25 gift card now while supplies last at thegamenashville.com/deals. The gift card is only good for the Tanger Outlets location in Antioch and inside Assembly Food Hall in downtown Nashville. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you talking Super Bowl. There, I said it. Talking Super Bowl. Chiefs, Eagles on Sunday. And of course, that means that for the second time in 3 years, A.J. Brown is preparing for a Super Bowl. Now, I saw this story by Nick Suss in the Tennessean. And Suss asked A.J. Brown if he's taking any satisfaction about what has happened to the Tennessee Titans since they traded him. His response was, I have no reaction. I send my best wishes to that franchise. That's long gone. And when I read that, I thought of that meme. I don't know if you've seen this meme. I don't know if you know what a meme is.
We're not that old, man.
Okay. But there's this meme that goes around.
Come on.
Exactly.
You're
know-
67 years old. They're all in their 70s.
Exactly.
I know I take screenshots of my computer with my phone,
See? I
I
think
just
if you
take a
did a
picture
Venn
of it,
diagram,
but
of
I do know what a
people-
meme is.
I
Come
think
on.
if
They
you
also
did
have
it-
kids that are like around my
that
age.
is true.
And
That
I
is
also
true.
do now have a smart TV.
There you
I was one of the last people on the planet to get that, but
Congratulations.
I'm coming along slow, but come on.
Yeah,
A
dumb
meme?
TV.
Okay, I'm sorry. Although if you did a Venn diagram of people who take screenshots with their phone and don't know what a meme is, I bet there is a big,
Probably a
big intersection. But there's that meme that says, I ain't reading all that. I'm happy for you, though, or I'm sorry that happened. That's what I thought about when A.J. Brown said that. But just listen to some of these numbers from Nick Suss of the Tennessean about the Titans and the Eagles since that trade on draft night 2022. From 2019 to 2021, the Titans went 32-17 and made the playoffs all 3 years. In that same span, the Eagles went 22, 26-1 and endured their only stretch of 3 straight seasons without a playoff win in the past 10 years. Since Brown's departure, the Titans have gone 16-35 with 0 playoff appearances, posting progressively worse records and never ranking better than 26th in passing offense. With Brown on the roster, the Eagles have gone 39-12 with 2 Super Bowl berths and have never ranked worse than 11th in yards per pass attempt. His 4,031 receiving yards since 2022 are a whopping 2,574 more than the Titans' leading receiver in that time. Brown's would-be replacement in Tennessee, Treylon Burks, has caught fewer touchdowns in a Titans uniform than Brown has appeared in a Super Bowl in an Eagles uniform. So that's a lot of different ways to tell you how disastrous that trade was for the Tennessee Titans. And I think we knew that pretty early on. But as Brown is preparing for his second Super Bowl appearance in 3 years, is there a way that we can truly quantify how awful that trade was for the Tennessee Titans?
I think it's even had a worse ripple effect than even those numbers tell you in retrospect. I try to be fair and say, okay, on the day that they did it, what was the feeling about it? I don't think everybody was up in arms the next day. If I remember, we did the show the next day, and we noted how visibly upset Mike Vrabel appeared when they did it. There was the minute it happened, ooh, what did we just do? So I think everybody was worried that this was an awful risk of a guy that clearly was an impact. But people might forget a few things. Remember that A.J. Brown was coming off a year where he had 869 yards receiving. He missed some games. He only had 5 touchdowns. His numbers were way down relative to what they had been in the 2 really promising years, the 2 years prior to that. But you still knew he was a special talent. He wanted to get paid special money. What would we describe his personality? A little up and down. He's got charisma. He was exercising that charisma, right? He was doing a lot of things to push buttons, right? He was going to batting cages. He was training with people down in Texas, I think, with Jalen Hurts, wasn't he? Like he was doing things. I don't remember, but he was getting people's attention. He was going on podcasts. He was a pain in the you-know-what. Now let's look at what they got in the trade, okay? Because what they did was they traded for the first-round pick, pick number 18, and obviously they took Burks. They also got a third-round pick from the Eagles. Then they took their first-round pick, the Titans' first-round pick, which was 26th, packaged it with that third-round pick from the Eagles, and made a deal with the Jets for picks 35, 69, and 163. And with those 3 picks, they got, ready for this? Roger McCreary, okay, second-round pick. Nicholas Petit-Frere, everybody's favorite right tackle. And Kyle Phillips in the 5th round with pick 163.
Who's now on the Eagles practice squad, apparently.
So, from a strict draft capital, John Robinson was thinking, I'm not ready to go change the market and pay more than we think A.J. Brown is worth, even though he could see all the other players that summer. Deebo Samuel, who we went on the podcast with, and Deebo's mom was on there. Remember that? That was the comical part. Terry McLaurin. I'm trying to remember the other guys that were in this mix. There were 2 or 3 others, and they all were saying, look, we're pretty good. It's time to pay the wide receivers. John Robinson saw it, and he was like, I don't think this is a good buy. We have a lot of older players. We're in a window. It's expensive with Byers. It's expensive with Derrick Henry. I got to pay Ryan Tannehill. It's a bit of an aging roster, so let's infuse it with more draft picks. On the surface, I can see the principle. But when you look at actually who they got, that's when it just absolutely incinerates, right?
Yeah.
It could not have gone worse.
Yeah, it turned out to be a disastrous trade all around. When I mean all around, I mean all around for the Titans, not for the Philadelphia Eagles, because obviously, AJ's been an all-pro. He's been in 2 Super Bowls. He's helped lead them to now 2 Super Bowls, and has the potential of winning his first one, along with Jalen Hurts and a few other guys on that team. So this trade was disastrous for the Titans all around, because it ultimately set them back in not just one area, but I think also with the guys that you named. What was Nicholas Petit-Frere supposed to be? The left tackle, the guy. He was supposed to be, we drafted him in the 3rd round, come from Ohio State, your prototypical left tackle. Couldn't do it, had to move a right tackle, still couldn't do it. Now, basically, it's a wasted pick. Kyle Phillips, a wasted pick. Roger McCreary, that hasn't been a wasted pick, but I think he's starting to decline a little bit.
He's been serviceable.
He's been serviceable, but this year I thought he was going to make another jump. He took a step back. Now, hopefully next year, this upcoming season, will be a little bit better. So if you just look at it from that standpoint, and not only that, Willie, you fired your GM because we believe, some speculate, because of the trade. So you lost the GM, and you started to do bad after that, even though I don't prescribe to that. But there are a lot of people that prescribe to the minute you fired your GM, your team started to go south. So not only did you not get what you thought you were going to get when you drafted Nicholas Petit and Phillips and Roger McCreary, but you lost the GM. Then subsequently after that, you lost the head coach.
Right. So
it's just the ripple effect you talk about.
Effect.
That's where it's from.
Yes. So I think that's one of the first questions that I would ask, and you guys give me your opinion on if they had just stood pat and stayed with the 26th pick. Now, this is, again, me talking out both sides of my mouth, because I do believe philosophically that most of the time trading down is a wise way to go.
Yeah,
because
you
end up
picking up
coming
picks
ahead. But unfortunately, and this was the undoing of John Robinson, because not just in 2022, but in 2021 and 2020, he had empty drafts, and that was going to catch up with him. And I think he was aware that in 20 and 21, like this is in the context of when he decided to make that trade.
Mhm.
He knew that he had a couple of bad draft classes. He already knew about Caleb Farley and Isaiah Wilson, just for
Mhm.
starters, right? That those guys weren't going to infuse anything. Isaiah Wilson was long gone by the time that trade comes around.
Yeah.
But let's say that they had stood pat, paid A.J. Brown. I don't know off the top of my head. I can remember Teron saying it wouldn't have affected the salary cap roster that year. It would have hit in the following year.
Mhm.
But I think we can reasonably say that A.J. Brown on that team in 2022, that still was 7-3 after
Mhm.
10 games,
Yeah.
would have definitely made the playoffs that year, right? They still, with a reasonably healthy A.J. Brown, would have been the best team in that division, which
I
wasn't
think
very
that-
good,
I
right?
think
So
they would have
that's
been.
for starters, right?
I think they would have been because you can't tell me, having a guy like that on your team doesn't make you better, doesn't make the quarterback a little bit better. Maybe if Will Levis had him, his first year, he would have been a little bit better off. Maybe if Ryan Tannehill had him, he wouldn't have held on to the football so long. So there's ripples effect. And listen, we will never know, if what I just said with those two situations is the case. But what we do know is A.J. Brown has went on and has been very successful, and the Titans have not. And I think we can all sort of look back and say that was the day that crack that probably we didn't notice, we started to notice it. And it started to go
Man.
downhill after that.
It became wide in a
Exactly.
hurry. It crumbled. So do you think, Adam, that you agree that they would have made the playoffs in 2022
I think so.
if they had kept A.J. Brown?
I think so.
And in theory, they would have had the 26th pick, or maybe they would have traded that down and gotten some of these other guys anyway. But in theory, they could have gotten help from a first round pick that wasn't on the roster. And then you start going, would John Robinson have been fired 12 weeks into the season? Probably not. Certainly not the same way, right? Because it was an impulsive firing in the middle of the season after A.J. Brown embarrassed them in a bad loss in Philadelphia. So I think we can reasonably say that wouldn't have happened had he not made that trade. And then you ask yourself, would Mike Vrabel have still been the coach at this point had they not made that trade? These are all the what ifs, because I don't think it's a stretch to say that it would have completely changed the history of where this franchise is right now.
Let's get into that next. 615-737-1025. How would things be different had the Tennessee Titans not traded A.J. Brown on draft night in 2022? Let us know. Call us, text us 615-737-1025. Predators fans, do you want to win tickets to an upcoming Preds game? Then be listening to Robbie and Rexroad tomorrow morning for Preds Pick to Click. All you have to do is guess a Preds goal scorer, and if they put the puck in the back of the net, you win. Be listening tomorrow morning for the cue to call on Robbie and Rexroad. Tune into 93.3 FM Totally Hits Nashville tonight for MTSU men's basketball. The Blue Raiders take on Jacksonville State. Tip-off is at 6, pregame at 5:30. Coverage also available on the Totally Hits Nashville app and at totallyhitsnashville.com. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you, talking A.J. Brown, about to participate in his second Super Bowl in 3 years as a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. We are attempting to quantify just how disastrous that trade was for the Tennessee Titans. If there were to be a 30 for 30 documentary on the downfall of the Titans, first of all, what would it be called? We'd have to have some sort of Titanic element in it. I don't know exactly what it would be. I'll workshop it. If you guys have any ideas, let me know.
Fall of the two-tone. I don't know. Blue.
We'll think about it.
Yeah.
But the opening scene would be that clip of Mike Vrabel walking away from the draft table in a huff after the trade was announced. A.J. Brown to the Eagles for the first round pick that ultimately became Treylon Burks. And we
then you would probably go back after that moment. You would then say 3 months ago or 2 months ago, whatever it was.
3 months earlier.
3 months earlier, and show the Bengals nightmare game where they were the 1 seed and almost overcame a bunch of mistakes and still had a chance to win, but couldn't overcome all of the screw ups that they had in that game. But by the way, just a sidebar, quick shout out to Middle Tennessee, who you just promoted their game. They're having a really nice year, 15-7, second place right now in Conference USA. So they're just want to give a shout out to the Blue Raiders, make people aware.
Shout out.
The Blue Raiders are in contention.
I also do want to pass
True
along
blue.
one quick Predators note. It is expected that Joakim Kemmel will make his NHL debut tomorrow in Chicago. So we were talking
they've
about
officially called him up.
Right. So we're talking about the purpose of the remainder of the season for the Predators, the opportunity to see someone like Joakim Kemmel play NHL games. That's a big part of the rest of the season.
Yes, and I'm curious how they will utilize him and other young players. Will they have the patience to just say, look, they're going to have some ups and downs here. Let them play. Let's put them with some skilled players. These will be the questions going forward here.
Steve in Clarksville has a great name for the 30 for 30.
What's that?
It's not remember the Titans. It's forgetting the Titans. There you go, Steve.
We don't want to forget them, do
There
we?
you go, Steve. Well, they've mostly been forgotten
Yeah,
since then
you're
because they
right.
haven't been relevant.
Fade of the Titans?
As the Titan fades.
We'll work on it.
Yeah, we gotta
Dylan,
workshop
Dylan
that.
is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dylan, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey guys, love your show. I just have one stat that you guys have, I don't know if you know or if you've already said it, but this sums up the entirety of the trade in getting rid of A.J. Brown. When the Super Bowl comes, A.J. Brown will have more Super Bowl appearances than Treylon Burks has touchdown catches as a receiver.
Yes, we have mentioned that, but that
Exactly. That's just awful.
that exemplifies the problem here. Thank you for the call, Dylan. That is, yeah.
That's
just hearing that.
embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Right. And you can on one hand say who could have predicted that Treylon Burks would flop that bad, but it does happen.
Yeah.
It does happen to draft picks every year for one reason or another who are picked in that range, even in the top 10. There
Yeah.
are flops every year. It is not a sure thing. So when you trade a known commodity for unknown picks, that's different than trading the first pick in the draft and moving down, to me, anyway, because I think that's the lesson that's learned here. When you have the known needle mover and you're trading it for a series of picks, that risk is too much to take.
Yeah, and it's not like when the Titans drafted Burks, when they drafted Burks. I don't think anybody thought, okay, the kid won't be able to get it done. I think everybody that, scouted him thought, okay, that's a good pick. You're replacing, a guy that is proven. I know it, but he sort of fits in the same mold of an A.J. Brown. He's big, physical, got good hands, can run after the catch. That's what he proved in college. So when you thought you were getting what you thought you were getting was a guy that can mature into what AJ ultimately ended up being, but that wasn't the case. So, I mean, it was just a tough, as you look back on it, it was just a tough deal all around, but more so in all really for the Titans.
But when you think, look, this is easy to do. It's what is it? The butterfly effect, right? You change one thing in the past and it changes the future. I think that's what the butterfly effect is. The trajectory of the Titans and how it could have affected other players on the team. Again, let's assume that Will Levis would have been the Titans starting quarterback this season, and AJ Brown would have been on the team. Now, you may not have needed Calvin Ridley because you had AJ Brown.
See, that's where it gets really complicated.
Yes, right.
The further away you go from the
Right.
move, and you even ask yourself, would they have drafted Will Levis?
That's another question. But
because in theory, John Robinson would have been making the pick and not
Rand
Carthon.
But for the purpose of this exercise, if Will Levis were the quarterback and AJ Brown was his number one wide receiver, would that have aided Will Levis in any way? Would we have a different opinion of Will Levis today if he had AJ Brown to throw to?
I think from what you briefly saw with him and Hop, that connection. Now, listen, they didn't produce, a 350 per game outing, but they had some type of connection. Just imagine him with that strong arm and AJ's ability to get down the field. How that could have possibly opened up things. Say if they did go get a new head coach, how that would have opened up things for Brian Callahan and what he felt he could do in this offense. No, they wouldn't have had Calvin Ridley, but I'm sure they would have had someone else because, again, Robinson, frankly, would have been doing the picking at the time. So this offense could have looked a lot different personnel-wise.
Yeah.
Had AJ stayed, and it may be a little bit better, honestly.
One other thing that I think was a big thing at the time that they knew, and so we don't even have to really stretch into the butterfly effect. John Robinson was wary that he had to sign Jeffrey Simmons to a mammoth deal. And I don't know what feedback he was getting from Amy Adams-Strunk, but it was talked about a lot, even after the A.J. Brown trade in the months leading up to them signing Simmons to the current contract he's under now, is do the Titans have the cash? Do they have enough money? Remember, there was an article written where there were quotes in there saying, I don't know if they can do this because he's going to make so much money. Where are we going to find the money kind of stuff? And it reminded you that the Titans are not deep in cash compared to other organizations that maybe have a little bit bigger cash flow. It's the old family-owned model that there are less and less of as years go by. So that was a factor. I just feel like, look, if you want to be a good NFL team, you would have to find a way to sign A.J. Brown and Jeffrey Simmons. It would have gotten done, right?
Yeah.
They had no choice.
You figure, but they didn't. They chose to allocate the money the next following year, or at least some of it, to an aged receiver that came in hurt.
Yeah, that was the year before. So
yeah, so
615.
Julio.
That probably
remember that didn't get to do that very
but
often.
I'm saying that's all the money that they could have just allocated to other things.
Is
like
that different
signing
than
AJ.
Emilio?
No, it's no different.
Okay.
It's sort of right in line with that.
Julio.
Emilio.
615-737-1025. We'll take your calls and texts on the effect of the A.J. Brown trade on the Tennessee Titans now that A.J. Brown.
And what's the name of the 30 for 30? We got to come up with something better.
We have some suggestions in the text line. I'll also workshop some during the break. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game. D-Mace Fink in the Donic 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Talking the A.J. Brown trade a few years later. A.J. Brown about to play in the Super Bowl again with the Philadelphia Eagles. Looking back at how bad that trade was for the Tennessee Titans. And we'll get into that a little bit more here. I did ask for your suggestions on a 30 for 30 if ESPN were to, for some reason, do a documentary about the downfall of these Titans, starting with that scene of Mike Vrabel getting up from the table in a huff after the trade went down. Adam in Portland sent me one that almost made me spit my water out during the break. From Mr. Automatic to Mr. Asthmatic, the story of the Tennessee Titans wide receivers.
Oh. The list of things, the list of ailments for Treylon Burks is a very long list. The list of things that happened. And remember the last chapter. I'm will he even be invited back to camp? I don't know. But remember, this year was almost comical because he had the latest and he was almost not even on the top of mind anymore. And everybody was like, hey, what happened to Treylon Burks? Like in one of the several press conferences, and they were like, excuse me? You said he had surgery? It's like it was out of nowhere. We weren't even thinking about him for a week, and all of a sudden you find out that he's had season-ending surgery. Oh yeah, he's going to be gone for the rest of the year. Just cap off. It's asthma was the first thing, right?
I do remember us looking at pollen counts during training camp.
Right.
That's how
and ranking the state of Tennessee with Arkansas and all the other 48
that's how deeply
states.
we went into. I learned a lot about pollen count that summer.
That Tennessee is one of the worst.
Yes.
Right? That's what we found out.
Scott suggests two-tone blues, which I think, Derek, you may have also suggested.
I like that. That's not bad.
I'd like to give myself a pat on the back for this one. Crash of the Titans.
I like that one.
Instead of course, Clash of the Titans. But, I'm wondering how Titans fans also feel about A.J. Brown now. We have seen A.J. Brown have incredible success individually in Philadelphia, as well as the team, of course, now in the Super Bowl twice in 3 years with A.J. Brown. I'm curious about how Titans fans feel about all of that when you're watching the game on Sunday and A.J. Brown makes a big catch. Are you going to be happy for A.J. Brown? Do you resent A.J. Brown for how everything went down? Do you side with A.J. Brown? I'm curious about that, but when we just had, one of the most jaw-dropping trades in sports history over the weekend with Luka Doncic being traded from Dallas to Los Angeles. And a lot of people have said, this is indefensible. This is one of the worst trades ever. And we're going to have to wait and see. I don't know if the A.J. Brown trade is going to end up on a worst ever list, but if you're looking at specific franchises, how many I can't think of any other transaction that the Titans have made. And you two can correct me if I'm wrong because you've been here a lot longer than I have. I can't think of a transaction that has affected the Tennessee Titans more negatively.
I can't.
Than this.
I can't either. There's less trades in football in general.
Yeah.
So it would have to be up there. They did trade for Julio Jones, and as D-May said at the end of last year, that didn't work very well either. It was a go-for-it move that people were excited about that also didn't really pan out. They might have been sounder just staying with some of the guys that they had drafted who weren't super exciting, like Corey Davis and or Jonnu Smith, to name two. That was a little bit of the trade-off there.
Exactly.
So, but you can't. It's not close.
Yeah, I don't
AJ,
think.
Right. I'm trying to think of any other big trades.
I don't think there's anything that was sort of.
We can include free agent signings in this as well if you'd like to.
It doesn't have to be trades.
Yeah, there's plenty of ones. That
we
work,
can say
but none that rank
agent.
this.
Yeah, but
don't want to waste time.
Free agents, it wasn't. When I look at free agency, it's not like I'm trading something to get something. Free agency is just okay. I've seen this guy play. I think he'd be a good addition to our team. He comes. If it doesn't work, yeah, it ends up being a disappointment. But, I don't think there's been, a guy that they've signed, and Snead may be the first one. It could be others, remind me. But I don't think there's a guy. Well, now that I think about it, the kid from Pittsburgh, they signed him to that massive contract knowing he was hurt, and that didn't work out.
Oh, yeah.
But they still were a good team, even with that, not working out at the edge for them rushing the passer. But I think the A.J. Brown, I don't think there's anything that comes close to it. Yeah, but Dupree. Yeah. I don't think there's anything that comes close to that, which happened with the Titans when they traded away A.J. Brown. I don't think they've made another trade that is even close to that magnitude.
Matthew in Nashville says, not a trade, but the way Albert Haynesworth left for Washington. I don't recall how that went down because I wasn't.
Well, they franchise tagged him, and they knew he was going to get gargantuan money.
Yeah.
I think Albert Haynesworth knew that if he made it to free agency, he would get more than the Titans were willing to pay him, and that's what happened. And that was a lose-lose.
Was he I can't remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, Willie. Was he the first $100 million defensive guy?
Whatever he got from Washington remember it was comical. It was like midnight was the free agent, and like at 12:01, they signed him to this massive contract. Negotiated and been given the richest deal ever and whatever. It was like, well, that was pretty quick. How you got those negotiations,
fast, didn't it?
Yeah, that happened pretty fast.
But I think at the time he had signed, if I'm not mistaken, the largest deal for a defensive guy. It may have been the largest deal,
I
period.
Think
but I think at least for the defensive
they backed up
side.
the truck.
Yeah,
they paid him. I'd have to go back and look. It's all relative to the year because obviously the cap has gone up. So at the time, I think they set a new mark, and immediately he didn't pass the physical test, and he was behind and used differently, and it just was.
It never worked out.
Never worked.
If you want to talk about a colossal sort of trade signing, it would be on then the Washington. Were they still the Redskins, or
they were still the Redskins?
Okay.
And the Titans immediately went from being a really good team, a number 1 seed.
Yeah.
That was the year that they lost to you guys for the Ravens as the 1 seed, similar to when they lost to the Bengals. And they went 0-6 to start the next year. They just were not the same team without Haynesworth. But Haynesworth, they weren't really.
It was sort of like the AJ thing.
It
was kind of like the AJ thing. Yes. But instead of, they didn't trade away Albert Haynesworth. They didn't get anything for him. Yeah, they let him walk.
They promised him that if we're going to franchise you this year. We won't do it a second year. They gave him their word so that he wouldn't hold out. And so he played and had an unreal year. He was,
he was the best defensive player in the league to me.
I think if he wasn't, he was in the top 2 or 3.
Exactly. He was just a wrecking ball. I mean, but when he wanted to play, you couldn't stop him, period. And I think from that standpoint, that probably would be the only thing closest to AJ. It wasn't sort of the AJ situation, but you allowed a guy.
Was a disaster in Washington.
It never worked out in Washington. Right. Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
what makes it worse for AJ is that AJ is thriving.
Yeah, he's thriving in Philadelphia. That's the only sort of, I guess.
You could look at Haynesworth back then and say, well, maybe we were better off not making that commitment. Look at Albert Haynesworth now that he's gotten this big contract.
Yeah, you could have looked at it from that standpoint, and then you look at AJ and say, well, AJ is balling. But you can also look at it as, listen, had they kept him here, I don't think that version of Albert would have showed up. Whatever version showed up in Washington, I don't know, but whatever version showed up in Washington, that mesh between the coaches, the front office, and Albert, it just didn't work. That wouldn't have been the case here.
He would have had Jim Washburn, the defensive line coach that brought him to life. They would have used him the same way they had always used him. Like, that definitely.
The defense would have been.
That's another butterfly question for you.
It would have been built around Albert. Yeah, that defense. So, but that's the only thing that comes close to the AJ Brown sort of trade. But from this standpoint, what makes it worse, like you said, Adam, AJ's been to 2 Super Bowls now, and he's balled out. He's been an All-Pro. He's gotten another extension to a contract. So all those things Well, some of those things y'all could have had here. Now, the 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, I don't know. But at least y'all would have had a dominant player.
Weston Hermitage says, I think we talk about A.J. Brown more in Nashville than they do in Philadelphia. People know he hasn't played here in a few years, right? Well, here's the issue. Imagine if you're dating someone and you break up, and the next thing you know, you're stalking your ex, and all of a sudden she's dating Glenn Powell. Like, that's what it's like watching A.J. Brown. Or if you're a woman and you broke up, and the next thing you know, you see your ex-flame dating Sabrina Carpenter. Like, that's what's happening watching A.J. Brown in all of these Super Bowls.
It's interesting the names you bring up.
He's living his best life.
Why Carpenter?
Oh, yeah. That's
right. Glenn Powell is everywhere.
Yes.
And he's in every movie. And
Yes.
Sabrina Carpenter is everywhere too. They're both very beautiful people. But that's what it's like watching A.J. Brown living his best life in Philadelphia. Like, if A.J. Brown went to a different team and that team was okay and they didn't make the Super Bowl 2 out of 3 years, then we probably wouldn't care about it as much. But he is doing incredibly well, and it's Titans fans have to look at it. So that's kind of why we bring it up a lot.
Yeah, and listen, it all stems obviously because of where this team is at now. And listen, we've talked about how, some of the ways that they've gotten here, and we've talked about it extensively. And we've talked about how do they get out of this mess which they put themselves in. But this is also another component to it. Like, why did it all happen? And let's not let it happen again, which means if you have a bona fide guy, why is it Tennessee, you more times than not allow them to get out the building? Now, I know you re-sign some guys and get them to their second contract, but over the last few years, I think more importantly, guys like obviously AJ, and I think Corey Davis, and I think Jonnu Smith, guys like that, that you allowed to go to other places or you traded away. Those are guys that could have helped your team. Those are guys that are helping their team in some form or fashion. Now, obviously, we know what AJ is doing right now, but these are guys that could have been a part of what you've been doing, or what you could have been doing. And let's not, I can go further back. Jack Conklin, a guy that made All-Pro his rookie season, and I know he dealt with an injury, but he came back, and you still allow him to walk. Like, that's a good player.
Caleb at Mount Juliet is taking offense to the fact that I mentioned Sabrina Carpenter. He said, you could have said anyone else.
I would have said Halle Berry. But that's just me.
She's a little too old for me. I mean,
I know,
Sabrina Carpenter might be a little too young for me. I'm also happily married. Here's my wedding band on the stream, honey, if you're watching. But I can
She's probably like, whatever, go ahead.
I can objectively say, while also being faithful to my wife, that's Sabrina Carpenter. Look, it can be Olivia Rodrigo. I don't care. Pick one. Scarlett Johansson. Grimace. I don't know. Oh, man. Okay, Caleb mentions Jenna Ortega. Okay, that's fine, too. I'll stick with Sabrina Carpenter. Chol is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Chol, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Yes, my question is, if general manager and owner are supposed to work together, how was it possible that AJ was traded? Because we saw the reaction of Mike Vrabel when he got up and walked away. So if Robert let Amy know I'm trading him, he wouldn't be fired, because that was the only flaw he did. When you have a proven guy like you guys said it, we keep them around because they know the play, so they'll be more comfortable. They might leave and fail, but if you keep them, they're good players. And I think that's the problem. General manager should let owner know I'm trading these guys, so there's no problem because they know it. And 3 of them should work together, not just one side.
Joel, you're bringing up a really good point.
Thank you for the call, Joel.
Joel, you're bringing up
Joel.
something that I think absolutely should be in the 30 for 30.
Mhm.
Do we have any more titles? We'll have to get to those, but that would be an essential piece that you would have to delve into is
Yes.
give me the story and everybody's role as it led up to that moment because it happened on draft night. It
Yeah.
didn't happen. It didn't happen in the days before. It happened in the moment, right? So, what was the lead up? Did Amy Adams say, "Do it"? Right? She must have.
Yeah.
She was there.
She had
right?
to give the okay to it.
Did Vrabel say, "Don't do this. Don't do this, John"? Like I do want to know from people in the room, like, a good 30 for 30.
Yes.
That's what they do. They get all the people in there and they give their recollection. It doesn't always end up being the same story. Some people have a different recollection of something, but that would be the good stuff that you would need to get out of a 30.
Who do you think would be the best media member that would be in that 30 for 30?
You
know how they have like a media member who would be there?
Diana Rossini.
Locally.
Oh, locally?
I'm guessing Diana Rossini would probably be
Yeah.
in on that.
Oh, of course.
Kaharski.
I think you would get
No.
Kuharski and Terry McCormick
Wyatt.
and Tehran
Would
and
you even
all the
use
people.
Wyatt?
Well, I think you try to pool all of the people that were
I
in
guess
on
Would
it.
you use Jared?
Why?
This is what I would do.
I'm just saying, no, that's a good question.
But
like,
this is what I would do
why?
for
Like, what
Jared
is it?
specifically.
Part of that role,
He was
though,
very
in a good
critical.
30 for
He was
30.
very critical of the Titans, so it would be
Right.
good.
But part of the
Okay.
role is to be accurate with what you're saying.
Exactly.
Right. And maybe you can even back it up with a clip or a tweet or something. But also you have to be able to articulate in those 30 for 30s in a 3 or 4 sentence soundbite, right? You have to be compelling, right? You can't take 30 seconds or 60 seconds to talk about it. In the 30 for 30, it's quick hitting, right? So they're going to use the people who are good at communicating that.
This is what I would do if it were Jared. I would have him come in. The producer comes in. He sits down in the chair in the dark room, right? And have him talk for like an hour and then use one clip that's like 10 seconds just to see how Jared would react.
The right tackle. He was like the right tackle.
That would be his one clip, right tackle.
Man.
And that was all that Jared got out of it. But we have another vote for forgetting the Titans. So maybe forgetting the Titans would be the name of the 30 for 30. I am partial, of course, to my own crash of the Titans. But we'll continue to workshop this. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick has to leave us, unfortunately for us, but has to head to Chicago with the Nashville Predators. They are back in action tomorrow night against the Blackhawks. Puck drop at 7:30, pregame at 6:30 right here on 1025, 1063 The Game. We'll take your stray thoughts on A.J. Brown, 615-737-1025. But coming up next, Derek and I are going to have a conversation that I heard Robbie and Joe have this morning that I found to be very interesting. We'll do that next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025, 1063 The Game.
Happy Thursday, everyone. This is Derek Mason, and you heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time now. If you set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a goal to shed some extra pounds, only to face disappointment. But at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain. We tailor nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
This week, Stillman and Company is broadcasting live and providing live updates from New Orleans on Radio Row leading up to the big game. Coverage presented by, let me take a deep breath here, Houston Clinic Orthopedics, Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, Family Leisure, Shane Company, Volunteer Hose and Gasket, 312 Pizza, Cedar Direct, and the new Cumberland.com. A lot of sponsors, lovely sponsors, sponsoring Stillman and Company down in New Orleans. Jared will be on, of course, at 2 o'clock. He mentioned Warren Moon is going to be on the program today, and I believe Moose Johnston is going to be on the program today. Busy day for Jared.
Some good hitters, man.
Right? It's Thursday. They're Thursday guys.
Exactly.
You get the heavy hitters on Thursdays. We will be joined by Elliot Freeman, who's also a Thursday guy, at 1 o'clock to discuss the Nashville Predators and the NHL. But Derek, this morning, Robbie and Joe tossed out this question, and I thought it was interesting, and I would love for all of you to get in on this as well at 615-737-1025. What is the worst case scenario? And let me revise this. What is the worst case realistic scenario for the Titans at quarterback next season? So don't call or text and say Deshaun Watson, because Deshaun Watson is not going to be playing quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. Be realistic. What would be your worst case scenario? And I will tell you, Derek, when I heard this question, I will tell you the first one that popped into my head. Kirk Cousins would be my worst case scenario. Now, you may not have to pay him a lot because if he gets cut by the Falcons, I'm sure they owe him a ton of money. I don't know exactly how much, but he got benched in the second half of last season. He played terribly leading up to that benching. And he recently came out and said he had shoulder and elbow injuries that affected his play, and he was coming off a torn Achilles. So you have an old quarterback who was never known for his mobility, dealing with a torn Achilles, recovering from that, apparently dealing with shoulder and arm issues. I don't like it. I know Joe Rexroad would love it, and you would too, fellow Spartan. But no, thank you. That was just my gut. Like when I heard that question, for some reason, the first person that popped into my head was Kirk Cousins.
No, I agree with you. Kirk Cousins of 2 years ago, I'd take him all day, every day. If you want to make him a bridge quarterback, but not the Kirk Cousins that I saw last year. And then for him to come out and said he was having shoulder troubles during the season, and that's another reason. Well, no, man, you're getting older. I don't want to touch that. I don't know if that shoulder surgery is going to come up again in the season and your arms start to get, tired a lot quicker than what it normally does. So I am staying 100 feet away from Kirk Cousins, not because I think that, Kurt is just a bad quarterback. No, I think Kurt is an injured quarterback and he's an older quarterback. And those two are not good combinations. If he was a young quarterback with a slight injury, okay, we can think about it. Or if he's, an older guy but had been playing well, we can think about it. But when you're older and injured, that's when you got to pretty much.
He'll be 37 when
you got to erase him off your list.
When week 1 rolls around next season.
And I think a lot of people have probably erased him off their list,
right?
Even as a backup. Because even as a backup, you're going to have to pay him a certain amount. Now it wouldn't be in the tens of millions, but you're still going to have to pay him. For a guy that, is coming off an Achilles, he will be 2 years removed and maybe a little bit better after, being away from for 2 years. But yet and still, it's the shoulder. That's the more concerning thing for me, is that he mentioned the shoulder. So I'm not touching him. That would be sort of worst case scenario for me as well. I can't see any other quarterback that I would think realistically the Titans would go out and get. I don't think they realistically would, try to go get a Garoppolo type of quarterback. Will they make is Mac Jones a free agent?
Mac Jones is available.
They wouldn't bring him in as a top tier guy, but them bringing him in and signing him to a small contract, I mean, that would be something. But then again, why do that? You got Will Levis. So Will Levis, that could be, Will Levis can be that guy if indeed that's what you're trying to do. So outside of Kirk Cousins, I'm not sure there's any other guy that I would be like, please don't do that. Darnold, the situation is different because I think Darnold is he wants to be more than a 2 or 3 year guy. And whether it's 40-something million or high 30s, if you don't see him as your long-term fix, then don't even go down that road because you're going to have to pay him. So that's why I take Darnold off. And then I just think he's basically Ryan Tannehill, but he's not going to have Derrick Henry to lean on.
Willie's response was the worst case scenario is you pay big money for the quarterback who ultimately fails.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't say Sam Darnold explicitly, but we expect Sam Darnold to be the belle of the ball in the quarterback market this offseason. Somebody's going to pay him a lot of money, $30 million, $35 million, maybe even $40 million.
Only takes one.
And we'll see if he continues to be as good of a quarterback as he was through week 18 of this season. Chad is in Hendersonville on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Chad, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, appreciate you taking my call. So I've studied the quarterback position pretty hard most of my life, played it at the college position, and I'm a huge Viking fan. So I feel like I know deep catalog on Kirk Cousins, and I feel like he's probably one of the most overrated quarterbacks in our generation. And I'm not looking at, his earnings of over $400 million and all that. It's just his feet are, they call him cement feet. That's kind of his nickname. And it has gotten so bad. He just can't play. I just don't think he's a playable quarterback in the NFL. I mean, we saw it the last, second half of the season with the Falcons. He just from behind center, he can't get to where you need him to. And then if you're just in the shotgun, you just speed rush him and tell your defensive lineman, throw out all your keys and all your rules and just sprint 6 yards behind the quarterback. You'll find him. He literally can't move. So I think you're 100% right that he's a completely unplayable quarterback. And the thing that bothered me that he came out and said after week 11 he was hurt in his shoulder, then step out of the game. If you're really a good teammate and you've got this young quarterback behind you that they're excited about, be a man and step out of the game and let him play and be a good teammate. So I don't want any part of him at any price. So just preaching to the choir, brother.
Chad, before you go, you said you're a Vikings fan, correct?
Huge.
So give me your opinion on Sam Darnold, because a lot of the talk about Sam Darnold is, will he still be the Sam Darnold he was this season when not under Kevin O'Connell, not throwing to the likes of Justin Jefferson? So as a diehard Vikings fan, give us your scouting report on that as it relates to Sam Darnold.
Well, Sam's intriguing because he checks every box. You're talking about a big guy. I mean, look at his size, look at his arm strength. And he made a lot of plays, and he kind of came out of his shell and really strived. People talk about the collapse at the end of the year, but he was actually really good in some of the big games. They played Green Bay on week 16, which was like a playoff game for them, and he was phenomenal. So the big problem they had with him at the end was their offensive line fell apart, and Sam will hold the ball, and that's another critique, but he makes a lot of plays. He's not a freak athlete, but he's a really, really good athlete. And, I roll the dice on him. I think Minnesota's ready to turn the page to J.J. McCarthy, and I think either in a tag and trade situation. I think if you're a Titan fan, I think Sam Darnold is best case scenario because he just checks every boxes. And if he continues to get coached well, I mean, just go back and watch the tape. He was an MVP candidate, and where the Titans are, to me, it's a 5-star play.
Thanks for the call, Chad. So straight from Chad's mouth, diehard Vikings fan. He says Sam Darnold is best case scenario. There might be people out there who said that Sam Darnold might be the worst case scenario for the Titans because of the financial commitment you would have to make. Dr. Locke is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dr. Locke, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
What's going on, fellas?
How you doing?
Yeah, Dr. Locke checks all the boxes. If choke under pressure, throw interceptions in a playoff, and fold under pressure. Yeah, if that's a box, he checks them. If overvalued and one good season with amazing assets around him this 1 year is an outlier. Yeah, that's a box. We could check that. Or we could just go with a no-brainer. I mean, just take Cousins. He's played under every scheme, and he's been counted out most of his career. And what does he do? You like that, baby? You like that? He produces. He likes it.
Thanks.
He produces and he'll get you through the hard times. He's a bridge quarterback. Take 2 years. Forget the quarterback right now. Right now, we're leaking like a sieve. Right now, you've got wholesale problems. You've got a right tackle. You've got no linebackers on your team that would start for any other team. You have no edge pressure. You have no edge rush. We're not a team that has one problem or two problems. We have a team that has a plethora of problems. We need to fix an abundance of problems. We need to trade down, take picks, stockpile picks, fix leaks, and then once we get the offensive line and we get some edge pressure and we have a defense that's not getting long in the tooth, sorry, Jeffrey Simmons, you're getting long in the tooth. We need to get some youth on that defense, some good skill. And we've got some good shining pieces. The cornerback that was a surprise, forget his name, begin with a B. He's kind of a, he kind of
Brownlee Jr.
came forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Brownlee's he's a nice surprise, but there's more problems than there are nice surprises. So we need to fix mass situations. So get the quarterback, trade down, stockpile picks, fix problems, go after quarterback next year, the year after. What's his name's got to protect his job right now. He doesn't need to try to take a Shador and fail or a Cam Ward and fail. So let's, you don't address the right tackle. Nobody wins under center.
Thank you for the call. So I just want to make sure that I have this right. So Chad called in, hates Kirk Cousins, loves Sam Darnold. Dr. Locke calls in, loves Kirk Cousins, hates Sam Darnold. Do I have that right?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what it sounded like. I hope I didn't get mixed up saying that. But that just shows you the type of conversation that we're having here, Derek. We had one caller who thinks that Sam Darnold would be best case scenario. The following caller said it might be the worst case scenario. Like, that's just the situation that the Titans find themselves in.
But I would lean more toward the first caller from this standpoint.
Who liked Darnold but didn't like Cousins.
Yeah, because I'm not big. It wasn't so much of the Darnold that I'm agreeing with. It's not so much. So I would agree with both callers in a sense with Darnold. Do I think Darnold's all that? No. The first caller did. The second caller did, and I'm sort of in the middle with Darnold. But what I do agree with the first caller is this. Kirk Cousins, because of the injury, he can't move as well.
And
he's never really wasn't.
I was about to say, he's never been known for his mobility.
Exactly. He's never really been known for his mobility. But having that, one, he's 37, going on 38, I'm sure, somewhere around, next.
He'll be 37
months,
on week 1.
Okay, so he'll be 37 on week 1. He just got, just had an Achilles. He was healing from that this whole season. So not only does he still have, some remnants of the Achilles, but he also has a shoulder injury too. Now, mind you, this was a guy. This is not like Brett Favre. Brett Favre was considered very mobile and could run when he needed to. So when he had his Achilles, it took him a minute, and you saw it, in full display the first 6-7 games. But then once he started to get his feet back underneath him, he started to become a little bit more of the Aaron Rodgers that we saw as far as getting outside the pocket, buying time. That's never been Cousins. That's never going to be Cousins. And it's even worse now because of the Achilles. And to throw on top of that, he talked about shoulder injuries. Listen, prior to all that, like I said, 2 years ago, I would have went and got Cousins. Now, because of the age and the history of his injuries, I'm not touching him.
615-737-1025. Borrowing this topic from Robbie and Ricks Road, what would be your worst case realistic scenario for the Titans at quarterback? If this quarterback, insert quarterback here, was the Titans starting quarterback in week 1 of next season, that would be the absolute worst for you. Let us know. 615-737-1025. We do have one quarterback who's appearing in the text line. We'll discuss him next as well. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025, 1063, the game.
This feels like a potential Aaron Rodgers destination.
Wow.
The Tennessee Titans, because I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback. I do think that they're going to go the veteran route, I suspect. And he's the type, like his style of play, that style of offense.
With his offense,
does
Callahan,
mesh
a
recently
little bit
well.
Cincinnati-ish. So, but
with
Mina,
Brian Callahan's
do you
interest.
think that's a better route for a young coach like Callahan to go than taking a guy in the draft who may not be ready for that position?
I think you're doing both.
I do.
Okay.
Yes, because your priority now is to address the roster. I really think you know, if Aaron Rodgers is playing there, it's not more than for a year
Right.
or so. So the priority is like, let's bring him in, let's get the offense going, and then let's focus on the offensive line, playmakers. All the defense needs work too.
If you're Rodgers too and you want to stay in the AFC, really the quarterback that you fear is CJ in that
Division you feel
division.
good
You know,
about.
so you're confident in that.
That was Mina Kimes. I believe that was last week, eyeing the Tennessee Titans as a landing spot for Aaron Rodgers, who hasn't been mentioned in our conversation yet, Derek, of worst case quarterback scenarios for the Tennessee Titans. Tyler on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says the worst case scenario for me is Derek Carr. I never thought he was that good, and he's going to want a pretty high price. That's assuming that the Saints move on from him. Best case scenario for me is either Russell Wilson or Sam Darnold. I know they are both going to cost more, but if I have to guarantee $30 to $35 million a season to have adequate quarterback play, I would, with the plan being to be ready to trade up to draft a quarterback when the right prospect comes along. That was Tyler.
I just don't think Russell Wilson is a good fit. I'm not saying Russell Wilson he's still a good quarterback.
If it comes down to simply money, like you're going to talk about the systematic fit, which is important too. But I would rather pay Russell Wilson the type of money you're paying Sam Darnold for shorter years because, he's not.
Yeah, if you're just talking about strictly from a
right,
financial
but it's not
standpoint,
only about that.
Yeah, then okay, trying to get a quarterback for the least amount of years, and maybe the least amount of money you can give him, then okay. But I'm just saying from a schematic standpoint, Russell Wilson holds on to the ball too long. He's not meant for an offense like this because an offense like this it's rhythm, time, and get the ball. Why do you think Will Levis has so much trouble? He would not release the ball from his hands. He would hold on to the ball a little bit too long. And Callahan's offense is all about rhythm, just like it was in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow's so great. Why? Because it's rhythm. Boom, 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 boom. I may have to hold the ball every once in a while, but not every time. And I just think watching Russell Wilson, he holds on to the ball too long. You end up with the same situation you had with Will Levis, a guy getting sacked too many times. He got sacked a lot with Pittsburgh. What do you think it would be like here if they don't, even if they upgrade, the offensive line to better than what it was last year? He just holds the ball completely too long for me. So that's what sort of puts him outside of the guys. I don't think it would be like the worst case scenario, but he's one of those guys that he's probably like 3 or 4 on my list of guys that you would sign for that reason only. Now, the Aaron Rodgers, this is interesting because I said Aaron Rodgers about 3 weeks ago.
You like Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, I like Aaron Rodgers. Regardless of what people think of him as a person, I can't find too many people that played with him that hated him. Now, granted, I hadn't seen a lot of people come out and say they love him either. But people have done or said a lot about Aaron Rodgers and his character and who he is as a person. There should have been more noise coming out about him.
To be fair, he has brought a lot of it upon himself.
Exactly. I get that part.
His public persona is grating to a lot of people.
Exactly. But it's like, let him, who is he? With the things that he's done, who has he hurt? He may have been vague on some things, but who has he hurt? No one. Maybe the Green Bay fan base was just mad because he just kept them in limbo. I get that part. But hell, organizations do it to players. So I'm not too worried about that. Now, well, if you bring Aaron Rodgers, you got to go get the people that, no, you don't. He doesn't sit in that chair of strength anymore. He just doesn't. Now you're able to get him more so under your, what you're thinking, under your guidelines. You're more inept to get him now than say last year, 2 years ago, when he was getting ready to be traded. That's when he was at his most powerful. Now he's not. So you bring him here. Now the part would be, how much do you sign Aaron Rodgers to? If he wants you to build a team, then he won't take up a lot of your cap space. And hopefully he's at a point now where he's just like, I just want to build. I want to win I want to try to win again. And maybe coming to Nashville people look at it like, if that's the case, then he wouldn't come to Nashville. Well, he may come to Nashville because don't nobody else want to sort of commit to, an older quarterback and possibly paying him to be a starter. But the Titans are in a position where they can afford to. So you go out and get Aaron Rodgers. Now Brian Callahan feels he can run the offense the way he needs to run it and want to run it. Why? Because not only does he have a quarterback that has the ability to do that, but he also has another coach on the field now. He has a guy that knows this stuff, that can sit at the line of scrimmage and say, okay, let's check into this. Let's do this. And check himself into the right play. Will Levis could never do that. They didn't even give him the leeway to do it or the space to do it.
You mentioned Will Levis.
Mm-hmm.
He has popped up on our text line multiple times as the worst case scenario that Will Levis ends up starting week 1 for the Tennessee Titans. I would say that's a long shot. And Will Levis, I believe, is actually at the Super Bowl making the rounds on Radio Row. And he said this week, quote, "It doesn't offend me at all," in terms of Mike Borgonzi evaluating other candidates to play quarterback. I know going 3-14 doesn't get you job security anywhere for any team. All I can do is put my head down and work to show that I can still be this team's quarterback. Well, it's going to be a long road for Will Levis to regain this organization's trust. And I agree in this sense. I can't go through another season of watching Will Levis play quarterback. I mean, there is some entertainment value in terms of what crazy thing is he going to do with the football today? There is some of that. But the contractual part of this, the fact that he's on your roster, the fact that he's not making a lot of money, that kind of tempers me saying that's the absolute worst case scenario. Like, if you pay a lot of money to a quarterback and he stinks, if Will Levis stinks again, at least you're not paying him a lot of money. I don't think that Will Levis is going to be the starting quarterback, and I completely understand why Titans fans do not want to go through that experience again. I sure as hell don't. But I think the fact that you're not paying him a premium makes it like, if it's not the worst case scenario, maybe it's like right above the worst case scenario.
Well, I mean, listen, nobody wants to see, and I understand why. Let's say that. I understand why people do not want to see the Will Levis experiment part 2, because it looks so bad in part 1. That's like making a movie, it flopping at the box office, and then deciding, oh, I'm going to make a part 2 to this and expect people to want to come and pay for it. Nobody's going to pay for it unless it becomes this like weird cult sort of classic that ends up being, or you stream it. But ain't nobody paying no money at the box office to go see that. That's why it's like the worst case scenario, one of the worst case scenarios, because I don't think people are not willing to give Will Levis another opportunity. They're just not. And even those that may be on the fence, they're still like, man, if you can go get somebody else, please do, So unfortunately for him, it's not that he didn't pan out or he hasn't panned out thus far. It's the way that it looked. It was the optics of it all. And then the reaction by the head coach at times. That's what it was. It was almost like you're watching it and like you're watching the head coach and you're basing your perception or what it's going to be like based upon what the head coach is doing, and you're looking at him like, man, he's basically looked like he's giving up on a quarterback. It's like, man, you can't do anything right. That's basically how it looked. So people don't want to go through that anymore.
I don't blame him. I probably wouldn't want to go through it again. One texter says his best case scenario would be Aaron Rodgers with Shedeur Sanders backing him up. Now, I don't know how likely that is. If you're going to sign a bridge quarterback, do you still draft a quarterback number 1 overall, or do you trade down, collect more picks, and then maybe attack the quarterback of the future in a different way?
I say if you go out and get Aaron Rodgers, and you're still want to draft a quarterback, say if you're able to move out of that number 1 spot, collect picks, depending on how far you move down, you may still draft a quarterback in the first round, but now you're drafting him at a lower spot. So you're not looking at the value like he was the 10th pick in the draft or the 12th pick in the draft. I think that would sit well on individuals rather than drafting him number 1 overall. So, going to get Rodgers may be ultimately what the Titans choose to do. And listen, I want to say this about Will Levis, because I think Will Levis, there's some things that he needs to improve on drastically. But one thing I think he still has that's going to still give him a chance. He's a competitor. He does compete. It may not always at the end look like it's supposed to look, but he never stopped competing. That's going to always give him an opportunity. I see him being a different quarterback this spring, headed into the fall. That doesn't mean he will be a starter, but I think you'll see a better version of what he was last year. But that, I don't think it will turn out to be him being the Titans starting quarterback and future quarterback.
615-737-1025. Coming up next, Elliot Freeman, Sportsnet NHL insider, will join us. We'll talk Nashville Predators. We'll talk the NHL. A lot going on in that league. A lot to discuss with Elliot. We'll do that next. Derek Mason, Adam Vingett, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. D. Mace, Vinkin, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Derek Mason, Adam Vinkin here with you, joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and sponsored by Old National Bank, Sportsnet NHL insider, Elliot Freeman. Elliot, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing, Adam?
We are doing excellent. Thank you for asking. So, we finally saw the long-awaited JT Miller trade last week. There was a first-round pick involved in that deal, which then they ultimately traded to Pittsburgh. But a first-round pick was involved in that deal. Mikael Granlund was traded from San Jose to Dallas. There was a first-round pick involved in that deal. Has the market now been set for centers with a first-round pick?
It depends on if we're talking about term or anything like that here. I think it depends on the I think it just depends like on the overall situation. I think like if it's a rental, teams are going to try to get a first round pick. If it's term, I think, you know, might try to get more than that. I think it depends on the particular situation. But one of the things that's pretty clear this year is that everybody's asking for a first rounder. Some teams are getting them. I also would tell you that this year's draft, Adam, is not seen as a great one. Next year's draft is seen as much better and deeper than this one. And as a result, I think if teams picking very high need to do that to get some business done they want to get, they're probably a little more willing to do it this year.
I want to ask you about a former Nashville Predators player who's in the news, Ryan Hartman. Ryan Hartman was suspended 10 games by the NHL for roughing Tim Stützle. Now, I am a professional wrestling fan. Elliot, I know that you enjoy professional wrestling, or once did.
I do.
Yes. It was the move that Ryan Hartman executed on Tim Stützle would have been perfectly legal, I would say, or maybe not, in a WWE ring, driving his head into the ice. He's been suspended for 10 games. He's appealing the suspension. But you had something in your latest 32 Thoughts column that came out today that stood out to me. You wrote, one thing you heard about this situation with Hartman: on-ice officials warned Hartman several times during the Ottawa game that he was in danger of losing control. When I hear that, I mean, are there concerns that, to borrow the nickname of the late Brian Pillman to continue our wrestling conversation, is there a concern that Ryan Hartman is becoming a bit of a loose cannon?
What I would say is this, Adam. It's that he's got to play a certain way to be successful, but you can't cross the lines, right? I mean, you saw him up close. You know what he's like. But like, there's a referee's job is supposed to maintain control of the game. And, you know, that was a Sportsnet broadcast because the game was in Ottawa. It was Minnesota at Ottawa. So our guys were there and they saw it all. They said there were numerous occasions where one of the referees, it was Garrett Rank, was talking to Hartman on the bench during whistles. And if you watch the play, you can tell that Rank is looking right at it. Like, he's looking at Hartman in that situation and he's thinking, this guy might be on tilt and I'm going to keep an eye out for it. And I think that's what happened there. And like, there's always a line you can't cross. And Hartman crossed it. And, you know, he has to play a certain way. That's the role he's known for, but it doesn't excuse going past a place that you can't go to. And he did there. And the other thing too is that, you know, Adam, I know that George Peros, who is now running Department of Player Safety, he has talked before about non-hockey plays. Like, there's some places where guys get hurt or guys get suspended and it's kind of hockey-ish and it goes bad. That's not a hockey play. Like, you're not doing that in a game for any normal reason. So I think between him losing his cool and also him making a play that really isn't a quote-unquote hockey play, that's why he got hammered. Now, I think Hartman's trying a couple of things here. Number one, I don't expect the first appeal, when it's over 6 games or 6 games or more, the first appeal goes to the commissioner. I expect the commissioner to back George Parros, and I don't think this is going to change. But if that's the case, he gets to go to an independent arbitrator. And we have seen a couple of situations in recent years where suspensions got dropped. One 20-gamer went down to a 15. Another 20-gamer went down to a 14. And what's unique about this is that because of the Four Nations break, the tournament that's being played in the next couple of weeks, normally you would never see a case where this would get sorted out for Hartman in time. But now his 10th game wouldn't be until March 9th. So I think he's taking a shot at it for that reason.
You mentioned as well in your latest 32 Thoughts column, now that the salary cap is expected to skyrocket, it could have a massive effect on contract negotiations, specifically when it comes to superstar players. What are you expecting in that realm now that the salary cap is shooting up exponentially?
Boy, I think, Adam, we're going to find that all out together. It's not only that the salary cap is going up to a really high number, the highest numbers we've ever seen, but the individual salaries are now going up to a high number. Like the highest paid player on average now is at $14 million. We've never seen that before, not on an average annual value basis. Like you'll remember, there was a time Shea Weber was making $14 million a year, but that was not every year of his contract. His contract was front loaded. So this is very new for everybody. And, I think the players are really excited, as they should be. A lot of them are going to get paid. But I think there are teams who are like, you know what? I don't know that I want to go there, particularly if we're not winning. Like the Canadian teams, so next year the salary cap is 95.5. That's in US dollars. Right now, our dollar is like in a disaster zone. So that's $140 million Canadian in today's dollars. And the Canadian teams, they pay in US dollars. All players get paid in that, but their revenues come in Canadian dollars. So even though a lot of them are in really strong places, like that's a big difference, Adam. So I think some of them are pretty nervous. I also think that there are teams, and I would be very curious to know what a team like the Predators would say about it. You squeeze everything you can out of your building and your fan base. And you do reach a point sometimes where you worry, hey, like, can we squeeze any more out of this? Now there's league-wide revenues, which are good, strong. They're stronger than they've ever been. So that helps. There's a new Canadian TV deal coming sometime over the next year. So that should help. I think there's going to be another round of expansion sometime over the next few years. So that should help. But the bottom line is, Adam, we're going into uncharted territory here. Like the cap has never been this high. The individual salaries have never been this high. I never have a problem with anybody negotiating their best deal. And it kind of happened in the middle of, and they've also never had this much time to plan. Like they've never been given this much advance in terms of a cap. So the world is a really different place. And, the guys who I think are in the toughest spot are the people like Barry Trotz, because he just got handed this and he's got a month until the trade deadline to kind of figure things out. So, like, I just think that over the next 2 weeks, when the schedule slows down for this international tournament, some of these GMs are going to be like, okay, we really got to sit down. We got to plan it.
I preface this question by telling you that I am no accountant. I don't do my own taxes. Well, I have, one of those apps that helps me do my own taxes.
Yeah, I understand. You're not. Yeah, that's pretty normal. Yeah.
Do you think the advantage that the Predators and other teams have in terms of no state income tax, does the rising salary cap limit the advantage you think that those teams have now that teams will have more money to spend?
No, I don't. I think that's always going to be an advantage. Like the one of the things I really think about Nashville is that, it's so funny when I think about it, Adam, like 25 years ago when, all of us stuck up, snobby, hockey-loving Canadians, like when you guys came in, we're like, Nashville, what the heck is that? And now, like, we all realize what a great place it is. And it's not only that you're a no-tax state. it's also, Adam, that it's a great place to live. That's the one thing, like, you hear, if you're a single guy, you like Nashville. If you have a family, you like Nashville. And I understand a lot of former players are kind of moving into the area too, because it's a great place to live post-career. So, it's funny you mentioned that, because there are some teams, and some Canadian teams too, that really want to see if there can be some kind of tax equalization plan in the new CBA that's about to be negotiated. And I don't know that that's going to be the case. One of the things that Bettman has said is that he'll only do it if there's a lot of owners that want it. Well, immediately you're going to have some owners, probably like your own, who are going to say, nope, we like this advantage. Why would we want to legislate it out of the game? And number two, I just don't know if there's enough teams that really want to create something or can create something that matters. So I don't think that will change. And I look at Nashville's overall picture as not only a no-tax state, but a really good place to live and play. I think unless something really changes in your area, your location, I don't see that changing.
Yeah, I'm with you, Elliot. I don't think no team that has that advantage would then say, regardless of whether the salary cap is going up or not, would say, you know what, I want to take that advantage away. I want to let it be a level playing ground. No, if that's an advantage they have when it comes to taxes, they're going to keep it. And if they can get more, they're gonna get it. But looking at where this team is at, Elliot, Nashville, back in November, Barry said, hey, listen, if we can't get this thing straight, I may be looking to be in rebuild mode. Well, you fast forward 2 or 3 months now, they're on a 5-game losing streak. It seems like they're 16 points out. They're not making the playoffs. Do you think he goes into rebuild mode now? And when we're talking rebuild and possible trades right before the trade deadline, what do you think about guys like O'Reilly or Nyquist or Sissons, guys that can potentially be moved as well?
Well, so first of all, I thought it was interesting. I saw Camel was called up today, and I'm curious to see if I guess your next game is tomorrow against the Blackhawks. So I'm curious to see if we're going to see him tomorrow night. I thought that was really interesting that Hinostroza got waived and Camel was the guy to come up. To me, that's Barry giving someone a look. I don't think you guys are doing a full rebuild. I just don't see it. I think, Derek, that Barry will look to see what he can do, maybe what holes he can fill, what spots he needs done. But I don't see a full teardown. The O'Reilly thing to me, when Barry Trotz goes public, as he did on your station, and says Ryan O'Reilly is being treated like he's got a no move clause, even though he doesn't, and he's not going anywhere unless A, somebody really blows us out of the water, or B, he wants to. I've heard O'Reilly really likes it there, and his family really likes it there. So assuming that what Barry said it holds, you would have to show me a situation where the trade was good enough and O'Reilly was willing to go elsewhere. I'm taking Barry Trotz and Ryan O'Reilly at their words. Nyquist, yes, I completely believe that. I'll tell you the thing too is that assuming he doesn't get traded beforehand, Nyquist is about to play in this Four Nations tournament. Those are going to be big games. He hasn't had a great year, but if he gives a nice little snippet at these 3 games upcoming, someone's going to be interested in Nyquist. And Sissons, I think McCarron too. I've heard he's on some teams' radar. Sissons is a good player, and teams like guys like Sissons, and especially during the playoffs. He's signed to a contract that everybody can handle. He's versatile. He can play in different spots in your lineup. Teams like that, and he's a playoff kind of player. I absolutely believe that there would be interest in Sissons.
Now, the question around here too, and we talked about it a bit yesterday, was Bruno's system. Does it fit the guys that he brought in? Yes, everyone thought it would, but it seems like they've been having trouble with everybody sort of finding their sort of space within what he's doing.
Yes.
But Barry, he was on with Jared the other day, and Barry did say, hey, listen, I'm not looking to move off from Bruno this season. He's my coach.
Mhm.
So what do you think it would take for that to possibly happen? I know he said he's not going to do it during the season, and I'm not asking about during the season. I'm talking about after the season. What do you think would happen in order for him to not be the coach next year?
I would say this. I think that I think number one, for there to be a change, there's got to be such an obvious candidate that Barry can't say no to. Like, you're not, like, you're not, after everything that Barry's done this year, he stood up for Burnett, he's backed Burnett, he says, I'm not making the change. And like, you're not doing it just, you're not doing it just because. You're doing it, if he does it, he's doing it for one of two reasons, Derek. Number one is there's someone who he can get who he says, we have to have this person. That's number one. And number two, the only other reason would be if Barry is convinced that after watching this year, it can't be fixed under the current setup. Those are the only two reasons you do it. He's stuck with him long enough right now that there's no unless there's something else there I'm completely not seeing, Derek. And you played, you would understand this dynamic as much as anyone else. If you're sticking with someone through thick and thin like Trotz has this year, I can only see those two reasons as to why you do it after the season. Number one, there's a great candidate and you know they're yours. Or number two, you look at it and you say, I gave it a year, it can't be fixed. That's it. That's all I see.
Elliot Freeman, presented by Old National Bank, joining us as he does every Thursday on D. Mays, Vingan, and Donick. Elliot, I don't consider myself like the most patriotic person, but when there's international competition, go USA. So yes, I'm interested. Yes, I'm interested in this Four Nations tournament. Can't wait for Canada versus USA. I hope you and your brothers lose pretty badly to America. That's all I want to say. Otherwise, we love you.
Well, we'll speak next week before the game. I'll say this, like, I'm so excited for it. You have no idea. So that game, it's Canada and the USA. They're playing next Saturday night in Montreal. It's going to be bananas. First of all, it's one of the best places in the world to watch hockey. I would tell everyone in Nashville, if you ever want to take a road trip to go see the Predators, go to Montreal. It's a great city, and it's a great place to watch hockey. The fans are going to be riled up. And secondly, just like, I'm not an anthem booer. I don't believe in it. It's not for me. That night, so this year is the 60th anniversary of the red and white maple leaf, the Canadian flag. And our Flag Day is next Saturday. And I've been told they are supposed to distribute 20,000 Canadian flags to the fans. That building is going to be nuts. Like, I had a manager tell me this morning, some of us who've got players in that game and we're playoff teams, we are terrified of that game because those two teams are going to go at each other hard. It's going to be awesome. And Adam, as you said, may the best team win.
Elliot, we'll talk next week.
All right. Take care, guys.
Elliot Freeman, Sportsnet NHL insider, joining us on the program. I second him, by the way. If you are a Predators fan who wants to see the team on the road and you can afford it, you should absolutely see a game in Montreal. It's an incredible experience. The city is beautiful. So I second Elliot there. 615-737-1025. The Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2025 will be revealed tonight. And I want to get Derek Mason's predictions, including some of his old teammates could be enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame tonight. We'll get to that next. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Tune into 94.9 The Fan tonight for Vanderbilt women's basketball. The Commodores will take on Texas with an 8 p.m. tip-off in the pregame show starting at 7:45. Coverage is also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com. Vanderbilt women's basketball presented by Athletes Unlimited Pro Basketball coming to Nashville's Municipal Auditorium February 5th through March 2nd. Go to auprobasketball.com for more details and to purchase tickets. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. David James bringing us in with a little Lee Greenwood as we were talking about this Four Nations tournament. The NHL is pausing its season for 2 weeks. So the Predators play tomorrow, they play Saturday, and they're done for 2 weeks. It's a four-nation tournament, as I just said. U.S., Canada, Sweden, and Finland. It's a round-robin tournament. First best-on-best hockey we've seen in nearly a decade involving NHL players. So it should be fabulous. And as Elliot said, U.S. and Canada next weekend, must-see TV. But tonight, Derek, the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2025 will be revealed. So the Pro Football Hall of Fame unveiled its 15 modern era finalists back in December. You have informed me that you have played with 3 of the players on the list. Here are the players: Eric Allen, Jared Allen, Willie Anderson, whom you played with,
Yes.
Jari Evans,
Yes.
Antonio Gates, Torrey Holt, Luke Kuechly, Eli Manning, Steve Smith Sr., Terrell Suggs, who you also played with, Fred Taylor, Adam Vinatieri, Reggie Wayne, Darren Woodson, and another former teammate of yours, Marshall Yanda.
Yes.
So up to 5 of those players will be revealed as Hall of Famers tonight at the NFL Honors, which starts at 8 o'clock Central on Fox. So there are a lot of big names on this list, the biggest being Eli Manning for a lot of people. We can talk about Eli Manning in a moment. But when you hear all of those names, who do you think gets the call tonight? Who of those players become Hall of Famers?
I think first ballots are Suggs. He's no doubt a first ballot. Antonio Gates, no doubt first ballot. Who else would I would say first ballot? Marshall Yanda.
Has to
be. Yeah, he is. I would say, and I played with Marshall 2 years, and the kid was good.
Offensive lineman.
Offensive lineman. He played guard. He played a little bit of everything at times. He had to.
Didn't Jeffrey Simmons spit on him? Didn't that happen?
I don't know.
Claimed. It was claimed.
It was claimed.
Okay.
It was alleged that he did it. Yes.
Okay.
So I would say Suggs, Yanda, and Gates are. I would assume that they would be first ballot guys.
Surprised you didn't say Torrey Holt there.
Torrey, he wouldn't be a first ballot.
Okay.
Torrey's been in it. He's been in it like just as long as I have. But I think Reggie should make it this go around. So that's what, 4 already?
Yes.
And then
so Torrey Holt has been a finalist now for some time. Okay.
Yes. So and then, man, you could say Big Willie Anderson. I mean, Jared Allen has his case because he's been there. I think he's been a guy that's been on the ballot before. Eli Manning. Now, listen, I don't think Eli Manning should be a first ballot. There's no way in hell Eli Manning should be a first ballot. No way. Should he be in the Hall of Fame? Now, I'm not opposed to him being in the Hall of Fame. But when you say first ballot, guys, no, he's not. His brother was a first ballot. And he's nowhere near his brother. Nowhere, other than when you're talking Super Bowls. But everything else, nowhere near his brother. But so to me, he can't be a first ballot. Does he deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? Yeah, I would say he does. But there's only again, I'm going Suggs, Marshall Yanda, Gates, because there's only 5 to get in, right?
Up to 5.
Gates. I'm going Jared Allen, and I'm going Torrey Holt.
Okay.
Or did I say Holt twice?
You said, let's do that again.
Yeah.
You said
Marshall
Sizzle,
Yanda, Gates,
Mm-hmm.
Holt.
Mm-hmm. And you said, did you say Willie Anderson?
Yeah, Big Willie Anderson.
Okay.
So
it's hard to keep track.
Yeah, it's
But-
just all these names.
but
So that's my 5.
But the Eli Manning part of this is the most interesting.
Oh, you said
part.
Jared Allen.
He
Yeah,
said
Jared Allen. Or
We're going to
Willie
have you write
Anderson.
these down.
Whichever one. Willie Anderson or Jared Allen. I wouldn't mind.
We're going to have
either
you
one.
write these
Yeah.
down.
But that's my 5.
So according to NFL.com, if Manning does not get in on the first ballot, he would join Jim Plunkett for at least a year as the only Hall-eligible starting quarterbacks to win 2 Super Bowls and not be enshrined in Canton. The case against Eli is that he was never one of the truly elite quarterbacks of his era when you compare him with his older brother, Peyton, Tom Brady, or Aaron Rodgers. But Eli's teams also beat Rodgers and Brady twice during Super Bowl runs. People love to say wins are not a quarterback stat, but the truth is Super Bowl wins matter a lot in this context.
If you watch the Giants those 2 seasons, you know the man. Now, I'm not going to say that Eli didn't make plays when he needed to. The throw, that was just a hell of a catch by Mario Manningham on the sideline. I mean, I'm not going to say that was a great throw because that was a hell of a catch. That's what that was. And then obviously the Tyree, that was just a Hail Mary. Yeah, that was just a Hail Mary. That was just, let me throw it up. This is the last play. I got to get off. And he made a hell of a catch. So again, yes, he's won 2 Super Bowls. But I mean, again, I'm not saying he shouldn't be. I'm just saying when you're talking about first ballot, you're talking about guys that are no-brainers. It's just like Tom Brady, no-brainer. Peyton Manning, no-brainer. Aaron Rodgers, when he's available, no-brainer. Deion Sanders, no-brainer. Guys like that. Emmitt Smith, no-brainer when he retired. He was the leading rusher in NFL history. Jerry Rice, no-brainer. There are other guys that you can label as, first-time guys.
By the way, Torrey Holt, this is his 6th consecutive year as a finalist.
Exactly. So when you think of first-timers, you don't think of Eli Manning. Again, I'm not saying that Eli Manning doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm just saying, you can put Torrey Holt in his space this year. Not to say that Eli's not deserving, but he's not a first ballot guy. Torrey Holt's been on there long enough. He should have been in the Hall of Fame 2 or 3 years ago, along with Jimmy Smith, who haven't made it to the finals yet. I don't know why. But I would not, if I'm a voter, I would not put Eli in right now. I just wouldn't.
I don't know. Eli Manning was the one person who stopped us from total world domination by the New England Patriots. That's something to me.
So if Jalen Hurts win and just have a mediocre career from here on out, does that mean you? But he's only run once.
I know, but I'm not. If we're going to compare Jalen Hurts to Eli Manning, Jalen Hurts needs to win 2 Super Bowls.
But what I'm saying is, if he go in, is he's the Super Bowl MVP, and say he wins another. No, just say he gets to another one. Not even winning. Just say he gets to another one. They lose close. But he continues to have just an okay career, kind of like what Eli Manning has. He's not going to be a first ballot guy. He's just not. And we all know it. Again, if you strip the name Manning off of his back, he would be Phil Simms. A little bit better than Phil Simms, but essentially that's what he would be almost.
Your argument is not that Eli, let me make sure I have this correct. Your argument is not that Eli Manning should not one day be in the Hall of Fame.
That's not my argument.
You don't think you should be in the Hall of Fame tonight.
Exactly. You shouldn't be a first. The only reason you are a first ballot, and nobody else can tell me different, is because of the name on the back of your jersey. That is it. Because there are other quarterbacks that have had damn good careers. It may not have won a Super Bowl, won one, and they were not first ballots. So again, when you're talking about, or players that have good careers, great careers, won Super Bowls, but still wasn't first ballot guys. What makes him so different from those guys? Oh, my fault. His last name's Manning. That's what makes it
all right.
different.
I just want to make sure I have this correct.
Yes.
Eli Manning has defeated Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Am I right about that?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And one of them is when the Patriots were undefeated. Am I correct on
Correct.
that? Mm-hmm. So Tom Brady is 7-3 all time in the Super Bowl, and 2 of those losses came to Eli Manning. I think that is a attribute booster that should get him into the Hall of Fame.
I think sometimes we do
to the Hall of Fame.
I would not be upset if he were
first
inducted to
ballot Hall of Fame. There is no way. I don't care. He beat Tom twice, but it wasn't just him. Again, if you watch that season,
plays in those
if
games,
you watch that season in those games, that defense was lights out. They were. Again, he did his part when he had to, but he's not a first ballot guy. They were arguing about whether he was a Hall of Famer or not too long ago. But now he goes from people saying whether he should be a Hall of Famer or not to now he's a first ballot. Again, there's nobody that can sit here with a straight face and say, oh, well, yeah, if the name Manning wasn't on his back, he still would be a first ballot Hall of Fame. He wouldn't. There is no, he wouldn't. If I hooked you up to the lie detector and asked you that question, and you told me, yeah, it was or to kind of shake up and down like an earthquake. Like, you're lying, man. No, that's not the case. Again, I think Eli Manning, he has played well enough to be in his career, is good enough to be in the Hall of Fame. It is. And yeah, you can add the 2 Super Bowls to it. That helps it, but it doesn't sort of leapfrog him in front of everybody else and say he's a first ballot guy. No. Again, Torrey Holt had an illustrious career. I mean, look at the numbers. And he won a Super Bowl. He was dominant. He was a top 2 receiver for years. Nobody ever said Eli was a top 5 quarterback ever. Hell, he barely made the top 10. First ballot. Again, I think he should make the Hall of Fame. But when you're talking first ballot, man, that's just a slap in a lot of people's faces that have been waiting, and you throw him in there and everybody knows why you did it.
All right, we're going to continue this conversation because we have some text rolling in, and you can also call 615-737-1025. Derek Mason, Adam Vingy, 1025-1063, the game.
Hey, this is D Mason. You heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time now. And if you set out to lose some weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution to shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment. But I got some solutions for you people, because at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
D. Mace Finken and Donick 1025, 1063 The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Bingen here with you. Stillman and Company coming up next. Jared is live at Radio Row in New Orleans. His coverage from there is presented by, again, deep breath, Houston Clinic Orthopedics, Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, Family Leisure, Shane Company, Volunteer Hose and Gasket, 312 Pizza, Cedar Direct, and the newcumberland.com. I just had to get all of those in as fast as I could.
That's a good job.
Our man Mark from Nashville is calling on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Mark, talk some sense into Derek.
Oh, I'm gonna have to agree with some. Hey, first of all, am I back in the clique? Y'all forgot about me. At least I'm not calling in asking about somebody living 15 minutes away from somebody and what's going on with that. But I'm gonna get into what D-May said. D-May, you're 100% right, man. I look at that
Mark.
same way with. No, Adam, I got to look at it that way. I mean, you had Strahan, you had Tuck, you had Antonio Pierce, you had an elite defense. I mean, you had Manningham and Plaxico Burress and those guys. I mean, Manning's the name. Yeah, we all know what that stands for. I'm not saying, Adam, he's not a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's not first ballot, though.
Right.
Like D-May said, he never was top 10. I mean, he maybe been top 10, but he never was top 5. And I'm something else. D-May, you brought up a name that I kind of forgot about, but Jimmy Smith was as elite could be. Torrey Holt should have made it in there years ago. Reggie Wayne should have been in the Hall years ago. I don't know what the hold up with those guys, but you never even hear Jimmy Smith's name even mentioned when it comes to some of the great wide receivers and the numbers that he put up for the Jaguars down there. But hey, Adam, I'm sorry, man, but hey, Adam, I am on Cooper Flag bandwagon, though, man. If
That's
that makes
right.
you happy.
That's the way to his heart.
I
Duke and
pledge
Cooper
allegiance.
Flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag with 2 G's.
Yeah. And hey, Adam, I tell you something else where I'm gonna say something while I'm on here.
Sure.
I thought the Lakers made one of the biggest mistakes ever, getting rid of Dalton Connect. You had 17th pick in the draft. That's instant offense. He could have been a great 6-man. You could have played him on the second team with Luka, on the second team with LeBron. Why would you give that up? I know they needed a big, but why though? I mean, that's an elite talent you gave away. You really didn't give this guy time to really mesh with the team the way they should have given him. I mean, you agree with me or not?
I would say this, Mark. If you want, if you want something, you got to get something. You know what I mean? So the Lakers needed a big. They got Mark Williams. They were going to have to give something back. So Dalton Connect it is.
Yeah, I understand that. Hey, Adam, D-Mace, y'all have a good day. D-Mace, I ain't forgot about you. But next time I call in, I may say something about, well, Brian Callahan lives near the Governor's Club. And Chad Brinker stayed 15 minutes away from. So what's up with all that? But hey,
good
don't
to
take
hear from you,
offense,
Mark.
Frank.
Thank
Good to
you,
see y'all,
Mark.
man.
Yeah,
Thanks for the call, Mark. So I understand what you're saying. You are not arguing that Eli Manning is unworthy of being a football Hall of Famer. It's that you don't think it's the time. My argument would be, I hear the argument against having him immediately. My argument for is the 2 Super Bowls he did win were against the greatest quarterback in the eyes of many who ever lived. And he stopped an undefeated season. As I said, he stopped the Patriots from having world domination. And I think that should count for something. If those Super Bowls came against anybody else, I might side with you. The fact that they came against the Patriots, I think gives him that extra nudge.
Yeah, and the one thing that frustrated the Patriots was a damn good defense.
I'm not discounting the defense, but Eli Manning had some plays on that as well.
With us in Baltimore when we played, even that undefeated season, it came down to what we believe to be a phantom pass interference in the end zone. And then Bart grabs the flag and throw it in the stands, and then we get another personal foul, and then all hell breaks loose. But even before that, Rex Ryan, we stop him on 4th and 1. Rex Ryan comes and calls the timeout. He ain't even the head coach, and he called a timeout. Like, we stopped him.
You're bringing up bad memories now, D-Mace. Why are you doing this to
David,
me?
I know, but I'm just looking at it from this standpoint, because that giant, again, I'm not saying that Eli Manning shouldn't be a Hall of Famer. He played a long time, put a lot into what he was doing. I'm not going to sit here, especially he got some numbers, like he was a player. So I'm not going to sit here and say what he shouldn't or shouldn't be. And in regards to the Hall of Fame, I believe he should be a Hall of Famer. but there's a difference between being a Hall of Famer and being a first ballot Hall of Famer. We all know who first ballot guys are. And when we start naming them, Eli Manning will never, even if his name, say if we hadn't even gotten to this point yet, no one would have had Eli Manning on their finalist list or a guy that would have made it first ballot. I'm sure nobody would have outside of the voting people. But because he's there now it's like, okay, yeah, he still doesn't, at least to me. There are other guys worthy that have been waiting that should be in before him. Not to say he shouldn't go in. I just don't think he's a first ballot. Again, when I think first ballots, I think Manning, his brother, Peyton, Tom, Breeze, Aaron Rodgers, guys like that, man, that man, those guys are just like, no matter what, that's the dude. He's not that guy, at least not for a first ballot anyway.
Joey from Gallatin is on our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hunted.com. Joey, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. I love you, D-Mace. I got to disagree because you got to think about it this way. What is the MVP award in the NFL these days? It's a quarterback award. You got to look at it from a sense of it's not looked at the same. First ballot Hall of Fame is supposed to be the highest award, but think about Dan Marino. You putting him on a first ballot or no?
Oh, Dan Marino was definitely first ballot. His numbers basically, Dan Marino was great.
Yeah, but you got to do it. Even if your numbers aren't the same, you got to do something to make it to a Super Bowl more than once, or at least once, and then to make it twice. And like Adam said, against the GOAT, the greatest quarterback to ever live. I feel as if, he may not have had the biggest impact on the game, because the defense was great, and you got all these great wide receivers, but you're the leader of that team. You're the face of that team. And to deny you because you were looked at a little differently. I'm a Saints fan. Drew Brees has had one Super Bowl win, the only time he ever went. And like you said, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. But to short Eli because his brother holds a shadow over him is just kind of, rough. But no, I get what you're saying. You got to have the numbers. You got to do the damn thing. But sometimes, like you can't short him because I feel like they've watered down what first ballot Hall of Famer means, of course, with all these different guys they let in every year. But I feel as if, with the accomplishments he made, he's got 2 rings. How many quarterbacks have come through the league and don't have one, that you would consider? So, that's my side of things,
Thanks for the call, Joey.
Thank you, Joey. And listen, I get winning Super Bowls. That's the ultimate sort of like the ultimate achievement. But as David reminded me, Nick Foles beat Tom Brady as well. And nobody's going to be screaming about when Nick Foles, I think he's already retired, or has he retired? I don't know. But when he retires and 5 years after he retired, no one will be saying Nick Foles is a Hall of Famer, period, let alone a first ballot Hall of Famer. So to me, just because you've beaten an individual twice, Phil Simms, I think he's won 2 Super Bowls. Phil Simms not in the Hall of Fame. Why? Because his career as a whole didn't subject him to getting the votes to be in a Hall of Fame. Not even now that they're, doing the other sort of like portion of the Hall. I think it's like guys that I forget what they call it, where because Sterling Sharp is in it this year, and it's a few older coaches.
I think there's like a senior division.
Yeah.
Basically.
So, and I don't even think you can put Phil Simms hasn't even been in the seniors part. So just because you won 2 Super Bowls doesn't mean you automatically are a lot to be as a first ballot. Again, I think Eli's, if you just sum his whole career up, I'm not saying he shouldn't be a Hall of Famer. If he gets in, great. I wouldn't sit here and argue it. But to say, again, that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, that means that Eli, throughout his career, was a top 2 or 3 player just at his position. Not even in the league. I'm talking about just at his position. And he was never, and I repeat, never considered that. But does that exclude him from the Hall of Fame in general? No. That just excludes him from being a first ballot guy. Again, the guys that we talk about first ballot, they were always considered, no matter what, they were always considered a top 2 or 3 guy. Reggie White, he was considered a top 2 or 3 guy at his position for the years he played. So unless you were considered that top tier guy, I think that pushes you out of the first ballot. It doesn't push you out of being a Hall of Famer. It just pushes you out of being a first ballot guy.
We'll see who's right tonight.
I think he's got, you know what? I think he will. I wouldn't be surprised if he made it.
Well,
Let's just
we'll
say
see.
that. There'll be a lot. It will be a conversation across the world or across the U.S. if he does make it, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I just hope that Eli Manning is inducted in a quarter zip because that's what all the Mannings wear these days. But that'll do it for us today. Jared is coming up next live from Radio Row. I was going to say Radio Roll at the Super Bowl. Radio Row at the Super Bowl. That's coming up next, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Be love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful Thursday. Peace.